long before I know what I really feel. A sudden song is born, reflecting hidden dreams, often well into the night. Pebbles in my shoes, sure to keep alive a certain sense of beauty, colors to be woven into the garment of light. I wonder where you will. You might even linger beside the mirror, inviting you further. Long before I know what I really feel, a sudden song is born, reflecting hidden dreams, often well into the night. Pebbles in my shoes, sure to keep alive a certain sense of beauty, colors to be woven into the garment of light.
We want to begin to look at what we call the felt sense and at Dr. Genlin's unique contribution in this area. And the best way to appreciate what Gene Genlin has done is to think of him as a map maker. We thought we had a pretty complete map of how human beings know. We know that we think, and we know that we have emotions or feelings, and we know that we have body sensations. And it's like that covers a great, huge chunk of the map of how human beings know. And then there's a vague area that Freud and Jung call the unconscious, and nobody's really terribly clear on that, but it's a way to try to get at something that we sort of sense is there. Now, what Genlin found is he began to realize that meaning is not only thought in the mind, but it's felt in the body. For example, if you walk into a room filled with strangers and suddenly you have an intense dislike for one individual in that room whom you've never seen before, and you don't know why, or you don't know what it's all about, you just know that I don't like this person. See? It's like there is a meaning that is in your body, and this individual, this person, somehow triggers that unfinished meaning, and right away it's there, even though you don't know what it is. You don't know what it's all about. It's just like the lady I told you about in the exercise I gave the other day. I was in a room with her, and I had her ask herself that question, my life is going fine these days, isn't it? And bang, tears. And she didn't know why there were tears. So what Genlin realized is that part of how we know is that there's a meaning that's not just known in the mind, but it's felt in the body. And this felt meaning, and he called it a felt sense, is always more than any emotion that may be the doorway into it. And right away he began to realize that whatever this world of felt meaning is in our bodies, it's more than any emotion that might express it. He said, what's important is that the emotion is the doorway in to this whole area of felt meaning, But whatever this is, it's always more than that. He said this is the emotion is pretty straightforward and clear. Like an emotion is pretty much all the same thing with a volume control. You can go from mild irritation to vengeful rage, and it's all of the same type, but it's got a volume control on it. Whereas this area down here is internally complex. If you think about someone whom you really love, you know that they're simultaneously cuddly and warm and irritating and annoying. You know that? It's internal. You feel that? Okay. Mm-hmm. It's internally complex. It's not just all one thing. Now, why is the felt sense so important? Because the potential for change lies in the felt sense, not in the emotion. The emotion is a doorway into the felt sense.
Emotion rides on it like.
Yeah. It's a doorway in, but it is not the felt sense. The potential for change lies in that internally fuzzy, complex, multifaceted way of knowing that Genlin called the felt sense. And we need to appreciate that, because one of the reasons many people are afraid of the felt sense is because when they get near their feelings, all they do is wallow in the feeling. You know, they don't want to feel the feeling because all they do is feel it and go around in a circle in it, and they never go into and through it into this more complex, vague, fuzzy area where the potential for change lies. They get caught right at the top. For those of you who appreciate personality theory, what he then began to realize was that when there is this more down here, when a symbol comes and touches it, something happens and it moves forward. And the fascinating thing that Genlin discovered is that the symbol, it can be a word, it can be an image, it can be whatever. But what he found was that whatever that symbol is, it's not like there's a mirror image of it down here. And all you've got to do is get the right symbol and bang, this thing comes into awareness. It's not like there's some hidden conceptual unit down here that's the same as the symbol, and all you got to do is get the right symbol and bang, this comes out. What he found is that there is not an equation between the symbol and the felt sense. And this was sheer genius on his part. He said there is an interaction between the symbol and the felt sense. And when the symbol touches the felt sense, it can move forward. That was just critical in his development of personality theory, because then it became very clear that this world, this continent of how we know in a body way, is meant to move forward. Its very nature is to move, not to be a conceptual content. Its very nature is movement. And when you take that and translate that into the whole realm of what is spirit, what is God, you're into the whole realm of a movement. We are made in the image and likeness of God. We are this movement. See, we always...
Now we might do a little exercise and get a felt sense of how we carry this realm inside ourselves about all kinds of ordinary things. So if you put your notebooks to the side for a second and just close your eyes. And see if you can recall someone that you love very much. their name, see their face in your mind's eye. Recall the timbre of their voice, the little idiosyncrasies that they have that endear them to you. Maybe the last time you were with this person or talked to this person, something they said. And see if you can notice inside how you carry that person in your body. And as you sit with the experience of this person, see if you can notice how much more there is in that relationship, how much more than any word fully contains. So you could say, maybe use the word warmth, or loving, or caring, or things like that, words and phrases like that. But as you sit with how you carry that person inside yourself, see if you can notice how that is so much more vast, so much deeper, so much more extensive than any phrase or concept or word can contain. Someone were to ask you, well, can you describe that? See if you can notice how much more there is to the body feel of that person than any word really can grasp. And then let's just switch over inside for a moment or so to another person in your life. See if you can recall someone who has hurt you very much. Someone that you dislike, that has been a person that is very painful or very damaging or very destructive in your life. And then notice the same thing, if you can, to make it very real for you. Let's just say that when, in a few moments when we have our break, that person was upstairs waiting in one of the parlors and you were going to go up and talk to that person. He or she was there to see you. If that were real, what happens in your body when you think of that? What's your body reaction? What do you notice that physically happens? And if you just pause with that, how you still carry something of that person inside, how much more is there than just that, even that physical reaction or words that could, like hurting or destructive, or any word can contain. It's like it's so much more inside you. So we have, particularly around relationships, and we can notice relationships that are very meaning-filled for us. We can notice when we attend to it how much they like permeate the cells of our bodies, how much there's in memory there that spreads out inside. I thought I would start out this morning sharing with you a recent focusing experience of my own. And I think this focusing example is sort of an overview of, in a way, the importance and the depth of focusing, extraordinary things that happen to us when we take time to connect inside in our bodies. We had brought a man from the Czech Republic to this country and had brought him to California and to our 6-day workshop in Mexico. And we thought that as part of his training we would bring him to various focusing communities that are beginning to develop around the country, and so we had him experience his first American Thanksgiving with our focusing community in Sacramento, and then he went with us to Mexico, and then he came up and was with 2 focusing communities in the Los Angeles area before he came up to spend a week with us at our home. And we were fortunate enough to have the time, and the weather was good enough that we could take him into Yosemite Valley. We're only about an hour or so from there. And into the Sierra sequoias, the giant trees that go back thousands of years in age. So Peter and I took Carol into one of these groves that was somewhat accessible, because by the time he was there we started to have snow. So one day shortly before Christmas, I wrote in my diary, we hiked with him through snow into the midst of a grove of one of the oldest and largest living things on earth, the giant sequoia trees. The ordinary camera can't capture their immensity, and the mature trees range in age from 1,000 to 3,000 plus years old. As I was telling him that these healthy giants still bear tiny cones, he became excited, wanting to gather some for his children and friends back in Prague. Since I have seen the cones on the bare ground countless times since childhood, I naturally told him we would have to dig under the snow for them. However, our best efforts produced only holes through the snow, but no cones. As Pete and Carol left me to continue further into the grove, I stood under one of the trees, closed my eyes, and held my feelings of frustration and disappointment. So as they started to walk further into the forest, I'm not able to do much walking, so I stayed there and I said, I'll meet you back at the car. And my body said, there's something here that needs to be listened to, like we learned to do with focusing. And it was, I felt very frustrated and disappointed. I took my cane and I was scratching and trying to find cones for Carol, and no luck. All 3 of us were looking for cones. I thought, gee, this fellow has come all the way from Europe, from Prague, and I can't find a damn cone for him, like this. I could feel really irritated about this. And he was so excited about wanting to take him back to his kids. So I'm used to this now, and so when that happens, I pause for a few moments and focus. So that's what I did. So almost immediately, an image flashed in of a blob of snow falling from one branch. I was right under this big tree, and I had this image came in my mind of the snow falling from the branch above me to another high branch above me, and then hitting that branch and then falling on my head. And soon the words came, "You are looking in the wrong place." And then I knew that if snow could hit me on the head, it could hit the cones above me on the tree. And all I needed to do was look on the top of the snow instead of underneath. Now, weird as that may sound, and this is all, in a matter of seconds or so, standing there, as weird as that may sound, I opened my eyes and began to see cones all around me, slightly indented in the snow from their fall, but nonetheless plainly visible. By simply owning my feelings, the image and words could come and connect with them, with my feelings, and an actual organic physiological change in perception had occurred. That's what struck me, because I've done this type of focusing thousands of times in my life, and what shocked me was the physiological change that had occurred. I'm standing in the same spot. I'm looking for cones. I don't see them. I go through this process. I open my eyes and I see them. It never had hit me that dramatically what happens in this process. I stood stunned by the simplicity yet profundity of this sudden transformation in my body. As I began to pick up cone after cone on the snow, the feel of just being human with all its stale, entrenched body responses and all the feelings we neglect or run from wanted to be held. I was amazed at my own programming, my own stale, worn responses to things, perceptions, views, ways of looking at things, how stuck I was in so much of 65 years of seeing things the same way, doing things the same way, that sort of thing. Just amazed me. And I wanted to sit with that then, to be with that, to hold that. I always have considered myself an open, growing person. And I thought, holy smokes, like that. So that needed to be sat with. All these stale, entrenched responses, body responses to life. So I held that, and then the words came, and the quote, I wrote them down. Resurrection was always meant to be felt as a continuing now. Resurrection was always meant to be felt as a continuing now, deep in the cells of our bodies, where something so mundane as simply pausing to own our feelings in a caring way could call forth from an eternal and timeless presence such a penetration of those cells that our changing body itself would become our spiritual companion and teacher. So various steps there, just in a matter of minutes. The resurrection is not something after death. It's very clear from exegesis of the text of Scripture too, that it doesn't mean that. And then I concluded, as I walked back toward the car, accompanied only by the silence of the forest and my own awe, I kept saying to myself, what might happen to each of us and to our world if we just took a few minutes each day to pause and own inside ourselves what we feel. What incredible changes would happen if people would have that, more and more people would have that as a way of life.
Just to add to that, the message is not information. The message is the movement. It's the forward movement. It's the unfolding. It's the transformation. Can you catch that? The message is the unfolding of your story, which is always a gift. There's no way you can grunt up for yourself the unfolding of your story. When you have a hard, tight, hurting place inside, a knot, and it unfolds and blesses you with a direction or a meaning that you might never have imagined, that comes in as a gift. So that the message is not information. The message